Have you ever looked at someone in power and wondered how they even got there? Surely you have. We've all witnessed situations where blatantly incompetent people hold high positions, while those who truly possess knowledge, strategic thinking, and integrity remain in the shadows. This creates a dissonance within us. Why don't the best lead? Why does power fall into the hands of those who deserve neither respect nor trust? Perhaps you've explained it away as chance, intrigue, or political luck. But what if it's not just a flaw in the system? What if it's the very logic of power itself, the way it has always worked? History is full of examples, from ancient Roman officials playing petty games while Rome burned, to modern business leaders building billion-dollar empires on empty promises. These cases repeat so often that they stop seeming like exceptions. And then a chilling, yet inevitable question arises. What if power actually favors the incompetent? What if the system itself has a twisted logic, where those who rise to the top are not the wisest, but the ones who know how to appear indispensable? To understand this, we must set aside moral illusions and turn to the man who dared to speak the truth about power, even when it was uncomfortable, a philosopher who did not invent how politics should work, but described how it truly does. That man's name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and with him begins our journey into the dark anatomy of power, a place where appearances outweigh substance, and victory goes not to virtue, but to perception. Let's explore what Machiavelli understood about power long before modern science confirmed it. Niccolò Machiavelli is one of the most misunderstood thinkers in the history of Western philosophy. His name has become synonymous with cunning, manipulation, and cold strategy, but that is only a surface-level perception. The real Machiavelli was not an evil genius. He was an observer, attempting to understand power without illusions. He did not teach betrayal. He warned that, in the struggle for influence, those who win are not necessarily the righteous, but those who know how to play the game. His writings are a mirror, uncomfortable to look into, yet impossible to ignore if you want to understand reality. He wrote not to comfort the soul, but to awaken the mind. In an era when philosophers dreamed of ideal republics, he said, "Look at the court as it is, not as it should be, with all its intrigues, fears, rituals of loyalty, and cult of appearance." Machiavelli did not condemn humanity. He simply refused to indulge in illusions about its nature. One of his most famous assertions, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." This is not just about hypocrisy, it's about the fundamental structure of social evaluation. People do not have access to our inner essence. They see behavior, hear words, sense confidence or its absence, and that becomes the basis for judgment. In politics, business, and personal life alike, outward confidence often outweighs internal competence. Machiavelli understood this clearly. Power is a performance. Here, the winner is not the one who knows best, but the one who performs best. True leaders are masters of their image. Their strength lies not in truth, but in its presentation. The more confident and compelling the image, the higher the chances of staying on the throne. This creates a dramatic tension between the profound self and the convenient self. The thoughtful person tends toward doubt, and doubt is not an ally in a world that prizes decisiveness. The reflective person dwells on analysis, and reflection slows action. The ethical person adheres to principles, and principles are not always flexible. Herein lies an irony. The most deserving often appear unconvincing, while the most dangerous shine on stage. Machiavelli did not rejoice in this revelation. He simply observed it, and if you want to survive in the realm of power, you cannot afford naivety. He saw true talent lose to those who knew when to smile, when to promise, when to play on fear. He watched princes lose influence to cunning manipulators who turned weakness into strength, and falsehood into political capital. He did not blame society for foolishness, he merely revealed how perception works. And perception, as we know, rarely concerns itself with truth. It concerns itself with form, effect, and confidence. Which leads us to a more unsettling question. Can intelligence itself be a barrier to leadership? Can intellect make a person less fit for power? At first glance, this seems paradoxical, but look closer, and it becomes clear. Under certain conditions, intelligence can indeed be the biggest obstacle between a person and the pinnacle of influence. Modern psychology and sociology confirm what Machiavelli intuited during the Renaissance. Excessive intelligence can hinder leadership. Research shows that while intelligence facilitates effective leadership up to a point, beyond a certain threshold, roughly an IQ of 120, it begins to work against its possessor. Why? Highly intelligent people tend to think too complexly for most to follow. Their speech overflows with nuance. They avoid quick, categorical answers. They analyze deeply. This makes them harder to understand, less persuasive, and, paradoxically, less charismatic in the eyes of the general public. Think of scientists addressing complex issues like climate change, economic reform, or pandemics. Their caution contrasts sharply with populists who declare, "I know the solution. I'll fix everything with one move." Who is more likely to be followed in a moment of fear and uncertainty? The latter, of course. Intellect, however invaluable, does not provide immediate reassurance. It doubts, it analyzes, it hesitates while people, especially under uncertainty, crave decisiveness, not deliberation. So the deeply thoughtful are at a disadvantage. Add to this the internal nature of the intellectual. They perceive complexity where others see straight lines. They understand that every decision has a web of consequences. They see that absolute truth does not exist, only context, compromise, and probability. This honesty is admirable, yet unprofitable in a world of slogans. Where others promise miracles, they acknowledge limits. Where others project control, they reveal uncertainty. They ask questions where the crowd demands directives, and so they lose. We see this not only in politics, but also in corporate environments. Overly competent individuals are often distrusted. Their brilliance can intimidate. Their ideas ignored. They say, "We need to calculate carefully and wait." Meanwhile, another says, "Let's act quickly and simply." And guess who gets followed? In cultures valuing speed over accuracy, style over substance, self-assuredness signals leadership while intellect becomes a liability. This paradox leads to a darker mechanism, one Machiavelli foresaw: the illusion of confidence. In a world where mass perception is shaped not by knowledge, but by impression, confidence becomes the currency of influence. The louder and more certain one speaks, even if falsely, the higher their chances of being recognized as a leader. This is the essence of the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where the incompetent overestimate their abilities, while true experts often doubt themselves. Ironically, this misplaced confidence is often perceived as genuine leadership. Why? Human brains are wired to trust simple, decisive answers, especially in uncertainty. When someone says, "I know exactly what to do," people follow without asking for proof. Meanwhile, the cautious expert says, "It's complicated, with many variables, and is perceived as weak." This is visible in public life again and again. Charismatic, loud, self-confident individuals gain trust, invitations, investors, followers. Those who think too carefully are overlooked. Shakespeare captured it centuries ago. "The fool doth think he is wise, but the wise man knows himself to be a fool." The more ignorant one is, the more confident they appear. The more confident, the more persuasive. The more persuasive, the more they are seen as leaders. Thus, the system rewards illusion over substance. And what happens when such individuals gain power? How do they maintain it? And why do they surround themselves with mediocrity? Machiavelli provides the answer. When a self-confident yet incompetent person reaches power, the most destructive begins. Their goal is not to improve the system, but to dominate it. The surest way to secure their position is to surround themselves with weaker people. Machiavelli wrote, "The first way to judge a ruler's mind is to see whom he surrounds himself with." This is how mediocrity perpetuates itself. Weak leaders fear strength. They cannot tolerate competition. Instead of competent advisors, they choose loyal yes-men. Instead of those who challenge constructively, they select those who nod. Instead of problem solvers, they pick maskers. And thus begins a chain reaction. Incompetence rises to the top and spreads downward, turning the whole system into a swamp of mediocrity. This is not theory, it has happened repeatedly throughout history. Under Emperor Commodus, Rome was filled with flatterers, jesters, and careerists who pushed aside true administrators and strategists. The empire rapidly declined because fear replaced competence. A similar pattern appeared under Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe, where key positions went to party loyalists rather than professionals. The result: economic collapse and institutional decay. The essence of this logic is simple. Weak power fears light. It prefers shadows where neither mistakes nor alternatives are visible. That's why weak leaders suppress doubt, ridicule experts, and delegitimize knowledge. Anything that casts a shadow over their authority becomes an enemy. Society becomes complicit, often unaware of the culture of silence and compliance forming around them. Think of organizations where asking questions is seen as betrayal. This is the very mechanism Machiavelli warned us about. Such a leader does not strengthen the system, they undermine it from within. They fear truth more than failure, suffocate growth, and perpetuate incompetence. And yet, society repeatedly chooses exactly these leaders. Why? The answer lies not only in politics, but deep within the human psyche. The human brain evolved not to analyze complex systems, but to react quickly to threats. We crave simple answers: friend or foe, fight or flight, safe or dangerous. This binary thinking persists today. In complex, uncertain environments, this instinct becomes a liability. When faced with chaos, we do not seek truth, we seek relief. And nothing offers more relief than a simple, confident explanation, even if false. In moments of fear, society reaches for not honesty, but comforting illusion. When one politician says, "The situation is complex and requires compromise," they inspire little confidence. Another declares, "I know the solution, follow me." The crowd applauds. Honest complexity frightens, false simplicity soothes. Psychologists call this the need for cognitive closure. We crave clear, decisive answers. Even intelligence is powerless against this bias. A 2017 study at Yale University showed that participants solving political math problems performed accurately only when outcomes aligned with their beliefs. When reality contradicted their views, even the smartest faltered. Intelligence served not truth, but preservation of desired narratives. This is the tragedy of mass thinking. The more complex the truth, the more society gravitates toward simple narratives, and those who simulate certainty rise to power. In crises, people do not want analysis, they want a savior, even if it leads to catastrophe. And here morality becomes a question. Some knowingly exploit this, lying to secure power. Why? Because nothing restrains them, not conscience, not principle, not ethics. At the heart of this paradox lies a silent conflict between conscience and power. Machiavelli, stripped of sentimentality, delivers a ruthless, honest verdict. Morality often impedes victory. In The Prince, he writes, "A ruler who wishes to maintain his position must learn to be not entirely virtuous, and to use that skill when necessity demands it." For an intellectually and ethically mature person, this sounds like betrayal of self. The intelligent agonize over consequences, wrestle with inner conflicts, and weigh every word. Meanwhile, their rivals act without reflection, lie, manipulate reputations, and win. History offers countless examples. In ancient Rome, Cicero, brilliant, principled, and eloquent, was destroyed by Caesar, who crossed the Rubicon without hesitation, breaking laws and norms. Modern politics repeats this. Candidates who rely on facts and morals lose to those who wield demagoguery and ruthlessness. Society normalizes deception. Lying becomes style, cruelty becomes strength, immorality becomes norm. Studies show psychopathic traits, lack of empathy coupled with social charm, accelerate career advancement, not only in politics, but in business, entertainment, even academia. Manipulators who are self-assured and free of inner conflict rise, while the self-reflective remain behind. Economists call this a race to the bottom. When unethical methods pay off, the ethical feel pressured. Either play the game or leave. Systems begin to reward evil and suppress virtue. Here lies the philosophical question. If the system rewards immorality, can a world where dignity prevails exist? Or must we resign ourselves to cynicism as the inevitable law of power? Machiavelli, despite his grim honesty, believed change is possible not through naivety, but through understanding the true rules of the game. This brings us to the next step: how these dark mechanisms can be recognized, understood, and countered. After all this, a natural anxiety emerges. It seems that honest, intelligent, moral people are doomed to the shadows, while the stage belongs to the loud, simple, brazen. But even in this darkness, light breaks through. Machiavelli, contrary to popular belief, did not glorify evil. He exposed it. He did not teach manipulation, he warned of it. Only by understanding the true nature of power can we protect ourselves and society from its distortions. We cannot defeat falsehood by pretending it does not exist. We cannot build a just world by ignoring the structure of evil. But But if we study these mechanisms, if we see how foolishness rises to power, we can create barrier structures, cultures that render incompetence ineffective. This is hope. Not blind optimism that intellect will always win, but the hope that intellect combined with courage and ethics can build systems where competence is valued, feedback is honest, and power becomes a tool for growth rather than a stage of illusion. We already see such approaches. Independent institutions, transparent procedures, accountability mechanisms, diverse teams. This is not idealism, it's technology against mediocrity. Change begins not only in institutions, but within individuals. It begins in our ability to notice, to question facades, to care about substance, to say, I will not believe easy answers. I want to understand, even if it is difficult. This is the beginning of resistance. The path to a better society is not optimism, it is maturity. It demands courage not to flee from darkness, but to study so as not to be consumed by it. Machiavelli said, "It is not titles that honor men, but men who honor titles." Power does not deserve respect on its own. It must earn it. It must be filled with virtue, not a mask. If you have listened or read this far, you are part of a minority, one capable of seeing not only the surface, but the depth, who understands that the future begins not with those who promise, but with those who understand. So ask yourself, what dynamics do you observe in your own life? Which faces, voices, or ideas appear convincing, and why? What is the source of their power? Truth or performance? And most importantly, how do you resist the simplifications that threaten your ability to think? If you found these reflections valuable, share them. Consider who else needs to hear them. Comment, discuss your experiences, your observations, because only together, through exchange and honest conversation, can we confront the system Machiavelli warned about. And one thing remains in conclusion. Understanding darkness does not mean submitting to it. It means having the power to create light. Thank you for being here. See you next time.